So on this issue of delayed gratification, a lot of people will swear by, this mantra of delaying gratification until success materializes, and pushing through and having the grit to see a project through to completion and all this sort of stuff, and accept that it'll be painful, hard, grueling work for many months or years even until this success magically materializes. And people do go through their working lives this way. They sort it out at school, get the best grades, delay gratification there, get into the top universities, delay gratification there, sort it out, get the best grades, or even very often because they're competing with such motivated, hard-working people and such, maybe naturally gifted people on a level, but most certainly our top university is dominated by hard workers, people who are delaying gratification. They might even, drop a grade or two compared to their peers and sort of end up within that pool of people, something of a mediocrity. And, then a lot of people, most actually, I think, file out of the universities at bachelor's or master's level and end up in some sort of corporate or public sector employment and rise through those ladders, in the spheres of administrative or corporate employment of one form or another, or in the vocational spheres like law and medicine and engineering and these sorts of things. And those ladders do lead to high places. Well, they lead to high pay packets, and they can lead to, a rewarding and fulfilling life, sure. I mean, if you're working for an amazing company, doing great things, that's all very cool and good. But, very often I found with pursuing work, I think that for 97% of the time you're delaying gratification, you might actually be wasting time. And that's the sort of the downside to it, I think. And you sort of do find yourself, jumping perhaps somewhat pointlessly through a series of hoops that's, or doing something that doesn't inspire you or that you don't feel passionate about. And another thing is, if you're really passionate about something, you should never be delaying gratification. Do you know what I mean? The gratification is coming in what you're doing. And, I found this in various times in my life. I found times where I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to be doing anything other than what I'm doing. And, it's in sort of a bizarre mix of things, in stand-up comedy, in writing, in dairy farm work. I've had times on dairy farms this is just great. It's perfect. It's everything I wanted it to be and just maybe a bit more. And I feel brilliant about who I am and what I do. And it's just it's odd. Or when I'm studying something I'm really passionate about, physics, for instance. I always played to my strengths at university and studied humanities subjects. And it's not that I'm not interested in history, philosophy and literature and so on, but they're not my greatest interests by any stretch of the imagination. And mathematical ability always held me back from studying physics in a formal sense, I think. And maybe it also would be the major cause of my frustration had I done that, or had I decided to do that, since maybe quite often mathematics is leading physicists astray. But no, the gratification really comes in what you're doing. And I found this out more recently with designing things I suspect might be a possible warp drive idea. What I suspected, doing these fusion experiments in space, thinking about what else we do in space, manufacturing, farming even, giant hydroponic arrays in space and all this sort of stuff, growing crops for whatever we need the crops for, whatever else we're farming that needs to eat it, or whatever we want to gain from it personally. And think of these sort of things and doing the creativity and the design work in my head and writing about it and speaking about it. It is gratifying. This is gratification. This is gratification right now. The joy I'm getting from this is one person out there is going to see this, hopefully, and it will benefit their lives. if you're sort of like not, if you're unsure of what you want to do, and you're sort of just going through the swim like I was, probably in my earlier 20s, just playing to my strengths because I was got, my best grades were always in English. So I did English, or something with literature, like literature, history, something else. Didn't get formally into the study of physical sciences, astronomy, cosmology, and these sorts of things. Though I imagine actually, like, you do have to delay gratification sometimes. Like, if I were to seriously want to study, I have had to do this, because grind through the maths and just try and get that down. And like then maybe, that is delaying gratification. And okay, like I think a lot of the time we always have to do stuff that naturally we find, jarring, or that we just don't excel at, to get somewhere else. I think you do have to do that from time to time. But there should be no need ever to delay gratification. You should be always, if you're on the right track in life, you should always be thinking about the next step with what you're doing, with your next project, or with the project that you're currently on, and always seeking to make that better and to improve it and to figure out what the problems are with it. And if you're passionate enough about something, if you're passionate enough about something, you won't need any advice, like for your motivation or for self-help. All of that stuff will become irrelevant. It's like, your path now. You know it. You know what you need to do in life. You've searched for it. You searched for ways to try and improve yourself. Maybe you're at the point now where it's like you have your focus and you have direction, and you must keep pursuing what gives you joy. And the gratification from that is in the moment. It's not in necessarily a result down the line, but it could be in a million tiny little things all the way along the journey. And I think that's more like it. And I think when we start entering those phases of work and life, I think we start to gain a sense that actually life is a bit more forgiving than we realise, and that we can be a bit more forgiving on ourselves. And accept that we make mistakes, backtrack when we do make mistakes, and try and get it right the next time. And that's really all we can do, I think. So don't delay gratification. Pursue in greater earnest what gives you gratification now. That's what I would have said. That would be my advice, I think.